So yeah, my name is Ramon. I used to go by Chemical. I used to be a crystal meth addict and alcoholic, mainly an alcoholic. But I'd like to say I wasn't one of those really annoying alcoholics. I mean, I like to just keep to myself sometimes when I drink or play music. I grew up in the Jordan Downs projects at the tail end of the 80s, and it was something else because there were no Hispanic families at the time. In fact, there was one, and it wasn't us. We had just moved in. It was another one, and some stuff happened, and where basically that family got burnt alive at night, and it's all over the LA Times. At one point, HUD actually considered segregating families, well, the blacks or the Hispanics. That the Hispanics obviously were, it was an influx. And if you look at my older brother's elementary pictures and look at mine, my brother's 10 years older than me. So he grew up in the real early 80s in elementary, and I grew up in the 90s in elementary. But you could see that in his picture, class picture, there's a whole classroom of black children, and then a couple of Hispanics here and there, one or two or three. And then you look at my class pictures, and you see a sea of Hispanic kids and three or four black kids, I guess, by that point, because of the Pete Wilson thing or whatever. I don't know, three strike law. A lot of families were moving out of LA, including, I'm guessing, some Hispanics, but basically I'm guessing it was mainly blacks that went back towards the southern states. I don't know. I knew a few families that did that there, that he just picked up and left because they had family members that were going to really get screwed over by this or something. I noticed that there was still a lot on both sides though in Watts. So like there was a lot of tension, and the tension people still can say is there, but it's not as much at all. When I was growing up, I couldn't even ride a bike down the street because it would get stolen. No matter if I was 4 years old, I would get, punched or something and knocked out, and they would take it. There was this one time that I, uh, I'm kind of no stranger to molestation, obviously, because of, most people that do drugs and alcohol, whatever. But I remember that I went outside and that I was alone, I guess. I used to go outside with my sister, and we used to sort of kind of play in front of our front lawn, like after a year or two of being there. And there was this group of black kids, like older black kids, at least. I mean, I was young, I was like 6'5", probably. And they kind of tried to take me with them. They were like, hey, bring him. And then they're like, oh, don't bring him, or something, something, something. Like, but like I kind of got this bad feeling in me, and I just knew something bad was gonna happen. I don't know, and I was lucky, and I was just like they say, kids, somebody just tells them, hey, you want to come over here and do, you're you're a kid, you don't know any better. I grew up with a lot of instances of that. I guess I can touch on that in a bit, but mainly just growing up there in the projects, I got to see a lot of violence, murders, like from a distance. I was once waiting for my sister to get out of elementary because she and I would still play. Like she was at an age where she still wanted to play with her younger brother. We're 6 6 years apart. She's 6 years older than me. So I'm waiting. I'm waiting for her to come out, and I'm in the room that eventually became my bedroom, which has the best view. It has a view. Those projects have been knocked down since, but it had a view of a church. The church is gone too. I'm surprised the elementary is not gone. An elementary to the left, and then a tree line right in front. But I remember there was somebody standing out, I guess waiting for somebody to get out of school too. I don't know if it were their kids, some other black guy, kind of young, maybe early 18, 19, 20, early 20s. But he went up to him, and he kind of just went behind him and just bah, one shot, and just the guy collapsed over this tree. And I remember that tree, it just, it bloomed at times, but it just never bloomed, and it got all dark, that tree. So that guy, I guess he bled out and died right on that tree. um the church too had its thing. I saw a little kid get ran over, and then they got a crosswalk lady. I got to see even my old man when my old man was still alive. My dad died when I was 9, but he was waiting for us, I guess, or he would go and get his beer. And I saw him from that window too, same window. I was a little kid, and I'm looking out, and there was these black guys, and I guess they were beating the crap out of him, and then they had him on the floor, and they knocked him down to the floor, and one of them even came back and just kicked him in the face while he was on the floor. And I remember him coming into the house and going straight to the bathroom, which was right across the hallway from my bedroom. And I could just see his face just like all red and bloodied up. And he wanted to go back looking for them, and he wanted to take my older brother, because my older brother was a big stocky guy, but my mom wouldn't have it. So I got to see a lot. The crack epidemic, which took most cities by storm, but LA, of course, was no exception. I mean, Jordan Down Projects, it was there, it was everywhere, it was everywhere. After my dad died a few years later, I found out, I guess he used to mess around with coke, and I guess eventually he started messing around with crack too. And he would come home all paranoid. Sometimes my mom would tell me, I didn't know that. I, through a friend, ended up trying it. Not that I wanted to. I mean, nobody goes, hey man, it's such a rock star thing to do, to go smoke crack. I mean, not really. Not even not in that era, but I guess some do it. But so I smoked crack when I was like maybe 14 for the first time, after smoking weed maybe at 12, 13. Had a few beers here and there, but when I smoked crack, I remember something really, really odd happening. Like, I just started getting all teary eyed. I mean, I guess the high was that overwhelming, or I just remember the best way I could describe it is like it felt like a little piece of me just like died, or just got ripped off of me. And like, this was a big life changing decision, obviously, but most people say, it wasn't no big deal until like years later I really got hooked. Like, I don't know why. I've done other drugs, but I've never, and I think meth is just as bad as crack, if not worse, but I didn't feel that feeling when I did crack. It's just like I felt like a piece of me died forever, and I will never, ever, no matter what I do, ever get that piece of myself back again. I mean, that sounds so cliche, but It's sort of what I felt. Later on, I started really, really rebelling after my dad died, and all the stuff that I went through as a kid with those other topics. And I started ditching school and really hanging out with this one friend who had a house with his family, with his mom and stuff. But his mom kind of let him run wild. And we got to get into a lot of dumb things because of it. We would smoke weed and have girls over. And so all of that we were exposed to pretty quickly, me, my friends. And, having sex at 15 to me was like, oh man, I was so embarrassed too because I felt like a late bloomer. I talk to people now and they're like, 15, are you kidding me, man? I didn't get laid till I was like 19, 20, 24. 24 would be probably a little bit, I would not admit that, but 15 was not, but it was in my group. In my group, like everyone was pretty much kind of having sex. And it wasn't like, oh, they're saying they're having sex. No, they're having sex. I am there, I can hear it, and I know that we're all a bunch of troubled people and we're in Watts and we're just trying to get through the day and not go to school. Eventually, I developed a bit of a reputation for being a really good ditching party or kickback thrower. The difference is with a kickback is that it's just a few people, like four, five, six, seven. A ditching party would be like 30, 40 random people just straight up party. That's how you get caught. That ruins the day. If you just want to avoid and not be on the street, you don't invite like 3 dozen high schools or whatever, or elementary, junior highs. This is when I started doing that in junior high. Through elementary, I was pretty academically, I want to say, like, pretty up there. I would do decathlons and win. And one year I won third, and then the next year I won second. I didn't try out for the third year. Maybe I would have got first. I was able to retain knowledge. Like, I got pretty good at it. And most of this stuff, I don't think I'm smart, but most of the stuff that I learned, I really kind of learned on my own through television and then eventually the internet. But I learned stuff through school too, but just not as much. So once I developed this knack for not going to school, I got really good at it. We used to find people that had parents didn't that weren't there all day, so they worked. So those were the ones, and I kind of learned something in junior high, the art of manipulation, which as it turns out, I am also good at. I don't like to do that stuff anymore. I like to be straight up honest, and I like to be able to work and do stuff for myself now because that lifestyle leads to nothing. But I learned a lot of things. The way you talk to people, the way you perceive yourself, the way you can use thank you and I'm sorry and please excuse me or may I. All those words, especially with the not the teachers. Well, it worked on the teachers too, but it with the administration. I mean, most of the mean administration, they kind of loved me. There was only my counselor who kind of knew I was kind of up to no good. I mean, I grew up in the era of Bud Bundy and Zach Morris and Bart Simpson, so mine is probably, well, I guess all of them, they were all kind of known for being mischievous. But the teachers, I used to actually make deals with teachers, like this computer, I won't mention his name, but this computer teacher, and he was foreign, and he could not hold a class together. So like he would have these anxiety things that he would just start, you kids are disturbed, you're disturbed, and he would just go on and on. So one day I just go, look, how about we do this? Me and my friend over here, um, if you give us passing C's or even D's, as long as we pass, we will keep the class. We will keep the class in check. We will make sure they do their work. We don't want to do the work though, but we also want to come in whenever we want to. It was like fifth period. He agreed to it. I mean, I used to either do that or just win them over by like being into a bunch of older stuff. Like I used to be into AM radio. I was always into like classic rock bands that most of the teachers there probably were listening to in their youth. They all thought I was kind of like making it up, but I was, once they found out I was, the key is to be versatile in the world of like everything. I mean, if it really does interest you, you want to pick whatever interests you, but it typically, like, if the more interest you have, the odds are you might have an interest that somebody else has and likes too, and then you kind of, you hit it off with someone. That's as easy as that sometimes. um the teachers kind of like, they would just let me run wild. Like I could do anything. I could show up to class when I wanted. Not just one teacher, not that one, like multiple teachers. There was some I couldn't get away with stuff like that. And I wouldn't even try. But there was some that I knew I could. So I did. There was some lady teachers that would even let me sleep in the class because I'd be smoking weed in nutrition, which is like a mini breakfast around 10 in the morning, and then lunch at 12:30 I would smoke again. So I'd be a little sleepy towards like sixth period, and the teacher would, she would let me knock out. It was art class. And anyway, so with these skills I was able to take on a lot in life, mainly stuff that's up to no good with my uh, growth as an adult. But I that's what I did. And with this friend, I learned it from him first, like a little bit, but I actually had it in me the whole time. After a while, my friend, who I originally started hanging out with, he kind of went in and out of all kinds of institutions, so I didn't see him anymore. But then I kind of took the reins after like high school and all that was done, and I had started a brief time. I was in a garage band and so forth, and we would, you know, kind of have our fun living like high school popular people, but not even going to high school, and randomly going into any high school. As long as we knew a few people, like everybody else would know us after that. Anyhow, so after high school, that's when the real stuff happens. The real, like, downward spiral. I mean, these were actually the good times. But now, with my liver disease, my liver cirrhosis, I am trying to stay sober. I wanted to only make this 20 minutes. I don't even think I'll be able to send it. I have a lot more things that happen where, like, I bounce around from state to state. I do this, I do that. I wind up in these non-believable story situations that come off like they're from a comedy. And I don't want to just like, what do you call it, focus on those. I mean, if you really like, I can get into some dark, real stuff that, to me at least, if somebody learns from it, like the old saying, that'd be cool. It wouldn't be for nothing. But I think I do have enough that it could be all shot out, and then maybe editing would be nice, but um, I just gotta get into that mode. I'm gonna be going back to LA. I had some problems, family problems out here where I was staying, and I'm kind of battling this whole um, staying in one place long enough without having any problems at my residence to get treatment. So in LA, I'm hoping to find somewhere finally. I went from Reno to back to Arizona, and now from Arizona I'm going back to LA. I seem to be doing like a circle, but I'm trying to make it, and my symptoms are getting worse. So I am a little concerned that I may not find the place where I need to be, and my time is gonna run out. So at the very least, I wanted to kind of maybe be interviewed, and maybe this will be like the last thing I leave behind. Please feel to hit me up. I'm going to email this to Soft White Underbelly. It's just that little clip. It got me nervous, and I couldn't. I can't narrow it down who I am. I usually just shoot off, and like all this stuff just comes out. I've been doing it all weekend because I'm in the middle of packing up to move. So if you're interested, I'm gonna send this through email. I'm going to be in the LA area. I just hopefully feel good, and I want to accommodate any, if I were to make the cut and make an interview. But like I said, my main reason for doing this may be that this may be one of the key things I may leave behind. I mean, I don't want it to be it. I don't want it to be like this, but I don't know. And I do admire your channel very much so. It's very much real, and those type of people are the people I run into on a daily basis and used to associate with and understood, because they always tend to kind of tell me, people always find it comfortable enough to unload on me, and that's fine. But some of the stories that have come out, like when I was roaming the streets in the metro stations, and every night I'd run into, and I had a home and everything, I just did not want to be at home. I had problems and stuff, and I mean, I could have stayed there the night, but I just chose to be out all night. And every night I'd run into a new girl, and I try to avoid them, like, oh, it's a girl out here, like, she's gotta be trouble. And sure enough, they'd all gravitate towards me, and they'd tell me some really horrendous stuff. But anyway, so I'm emailing this. This has been 24 minutes of me nonstop talking. I do that sometimes, very often, when I'm like trying to come up with a decision or stuff, but I've never actually timed myself. So that has been like 25 minutes. I'm gonna leave it at this. Uh-oh. I hope I wasn't covering it. Oh God, I hope I wasn't covering up the microphone. I will be emailing this to you. Thank you. Oh, I hope it went through. Thank you for your time.